Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day. Not to be in a cult. Today is a very special day. It is the 1-year anniversary of the very first video Natalie, Webster, and I ever did. I'm sure everyone on my channel already knows who Natalie is, but in case you do not, Natalie Webster is the one who runs the Scientology Life After a Cult YouTube channel. And Natalie and I did not know each other when we were in Scientology. And we had both been out of Scientology for a very long time. I mean, I say a very long time because, you know, years to me is a very long time. And we had so many mutual friends. In fact, some very, very close mutual friends, but we'd simply never spoken to each other before. And you know, just over a year ago, I got in touch with her and I was like, hey, you know, could we do an interview on my channel sometime? And and then we rapidly put it together, and it turned out to be an incredible 4-hour interview that we did. I mean, it was the longest interview that I had ever done on my channel. And to this day, I still have not gone back and thrown in all those chapter breaks. And so for the 1-year anniversary, I figured me and Natalie would do a video together and talk about everything that has happened over the last year, answer some of your guys' questions, and have a little bit of fun.
Hey, I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it. It feels like in ways it's been 2 months, and in other ways it feels like it's been 5 years.
I know. I've lost all sense of time these last few years, I guess. Ever since COVID, time seems to have disappeared. You know,
It's not the same. It's not the same. But I do remember it like it was yesterday. We were messaging on Facebook because you were like, hey, come on. And you were out of town. So we were going to set it up. And I was working at my office then and doing a different podcast locally in my community. So I already had the setup. And then you're right, we did it. And to this day, I cannot explain the time blindness I experienced during that interview and video we did, because I think I was as surprised as anybody to kind of reopen my eyes at the end and realize 4 hours had gone by.
Yeah. I remember what made it so much fun. And one of the things that made time just have no real meaning is that we had no plan whatsoever for that chat. Like, it lasted for 4 hours because we were just going where the conversation took us and having as much fun in the process, even though it's fun to think that we can have fun talking about something that is as hard to talk about, and some of the experiences that are as horrible as they are. But, you know, talking is fun. Talking to someone who knows what you're talking about is fun.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
You know, one of the things that I did as we were prepping for this is I was looking at our interview. I'm just going to show everybody this. On many videos on YouTube, you can scroll through and YouTube will show you the most replayed moments of a video. And they literally keep track of who watches something and then fast forward, rewinds to watch it again. And I figured, why don't we watch a few-minute clip of what was the most rewatched segment? You don't even know what this is, but I know what it is. Let's take a look at it here. Let me make sure the sound is good.
This is one of the things they told my daughter to prove an a-hole.
Oh,
Yeah, not all of us can listen on chipmunk speed like you, Erin.
All right, here we go.
Mom.
All right, here we go. Now, this is, I mean, just to set it up a little bit so people aren't totally confused, you were talking about you were already kind of disaffected with Scientology, and your daughter had joined staff and was training in Clearwater, Florida at Flag for her position. And she did not know that you were disaffected, but the Scientology authorities did.
Yeah.
And you were trying to get her to come home for a holiday or something, and they were basically trying to get her to understand that you were off the rails.
Yeah.
And so let's see what you had to say about all this.
This was one of the things they told my daughter to prove what an a-hole I was. Your mom and your stepdad went out on a date night instead of going to an org event. you know, in hindsight, that's probably how they knew I was kind of disaffected because I didn't even care. I was like, no, I'm not going to that. Like I wasn't even making excuses anymore. I'm like, no, I'm gonna but I would do it like this, like, no, we're gonna go out to dinner. You know, like we have a date, that kind of a thing. So Shelby comes home. I immediately in the airport on the way home, I start telling her David Miscavige beats his staff, all like this stuff. Because it was after, well, it must have been after Mike came out. After he left the Sea Org, Marty for sure. No, Mike wasn't out. Mike wasn't public
Well,
yet.
2009 is when they did the Tampa Bay Times thing.
Okay. So it
Do you know what I
was,
mean?
yeah. So it was before, it was, yeah, it was right before, it was right about that time. And
Yeah.
we ended up sending her to Mexico. She's pissed at me. I'm ruining her life because, you know, she's going to be disqualified because now she's a potential trouble source. But we had the whole plan. So she goes to Mexico. The local church still tracked her down,
Wow.
tried to get her to agree to move out of the house and move in with one of the staff members. And I was going to, remember, I was going to leave quietly. I was just going to take my family and go. I was just going to go. It was late. Oh, that's my daughter. Hey, Shelby.
So late 2009, that would have been after the Tampa Bay Times articles, because that's
Yeah.
the first time it really publicly hit the airwaves that David Miscavige was beating people up.
Yeah. Yep. It was out there.
Hi,
So
Shelby.
Shelby. So Shelby goes to Mexico, comes back. She's pissed at me. And I'm like, hey, you want to go back? Get a job. I am not paying for a ticket for you to go back. And I'm not sending you any more money while you're there either. So she's like, at one point, I think her plan was to kind of get a job and then go back. But we just kept like, we got her, you know, she got a job working with my brother-in-law. I got her to a couple doctors. And little by little, she started sleeping and eating and coming around and realizing that this is not worth losing her family over because she knew we were all leaving. And in the beginning, I think she felt forced, like she was being forced to leave. But eventually it became her own, and she realized, yes, this is not good. And she found her own truth in that. And that is why I ended up speaking out. Like I said, I remember telling the ethics person who is now in the Sea organization, and I think she's an OSA. Her name's Karen Wessling, and she is the one who tried to get my daughter to move out and move in with her so she could stay in the church. And again, like OSA, I would have left quietly, except Karen interfered with that, tried to get my daughter to move out, and they were trying to get her back to flag. So again, being, you know what, I'm an ex-Sea Org member, I know what the rules are. I need to disqualify her for going to flag.
There you go.
Yeah, it was. I had a 2-year from 2008 to 2010. I worked on a plan to get myself and as much of my family out as I could. And January 1st is when we came out and like made the official announcement that we left Scientology. And that was right when Shelby was still in Mexico with my former husband on that trip, which was in part to get her away from Scientology. That was just a crazy time. And so it'll be 15 years that we've officially been out, as far as Scientology knows, January 1st of 2025.
Wow. That is incredible. So a lot has happened in the last year.
I know. It's when I look back on it, and I've talked about this too on my channel, how when I sat down with you to do the interview, I had no intention of doing a YouTube channel. I mean, zero, because you had even mentioned it. And I'm like, yeah, no. In my head, I'm like, no, I've got this going on. Also, you know, Tony was sick. But then it turned out being like the smartest thing that I think I've ever done for a multitude of reasons. And it not only did it help so much this last year of my healing and better understanding myself through the help of so many people never in Scientology, but all in on ending this cult, but in meeting so many different people in the community, former Scientologists, people never in, and just hearing so many different points of view. YouTube ended up being like this lifeboat that is getting me through one of the most difficult times of my life. And I did not expect that. I really did not. And since I'm about to lose it anyways, I just want to say that how much I appreciate everybody who has liked a video, who watches a video, who comments, who's been here. But one thing, I don't think, I think I've shared about this a little bit, and I didn't talk about to Erin about this beforehand, so hopefully you're cool with it, but too bad, so sad. I'm going there. The friends that I've made, like when I did that video with you a year ago, and it was like we did it the next day, I started my channel and just got going. And I, you know, I had my other jobs I was doing and Tony and everything that was going on. There were so many people. Like I did not expect that a year later I would have these additional people helping to support me in so many ways and emotionally, and friends. Like I didn't think when we did that video that we would become friends, and like you and so many others would be such a big part of going through Tony's end of life, his celebration of life, and the afterwards. And we continue to do this. And I appreciate it so much because, I mean, I'm sure you remember when Tony and I were in Clearwater earlier this year is when we found out his cancer spread everywhere. And when I got that news, I was on a boat with you and a bunch of other people who have just been so supportive and just been there with me and us, and just being, again, so supportive. I really want you to know, especially Erin, how much I appreciate you as a friend. Put YouTube aside and all that. I mean, you've really been here for me. I mean, you and Jen have been out to my house like 2 times, and what that helped me do afterwards was I can't even put to words. It's like I really understand how other people help to uplift us, because there's times when we just can't. And when you guys were here, it was the week after he died, and we had such a great time. It was so great, and it was so perfect, and I've just appreciated that friendship. And I wanna say too, to this community, it's been a lot of people too. And I just continue to be blown away by it and understand so much more the importance of having that community, which Tony knew. He kept pushing me. He's like, this is the community that's going to be here for you after. And I couldn't fully see that, but I do now. And everybody has. And like I said, I just really appreciate you and all of the
Well,
friends that I've made. It's been incredible.
thank you. And it's been my pleasure. And you're an amazing friend as well. And I mean, the real friendships is what goes on behind the scenes, not what goes on, like YouTube is what we do. It's how we have fun. It's how we stick it to Scientology. But the real relationships are what happen in real life. And real life is real life.
Yeah.
And that's what's really most important to me.
Yeah. And getting out that story, the way that I shared my story with you, which when I look back, I'm like, we just met. Like we didn't talk ahead of time. We didn't sit down and go, okay, this is what we'll go over. It was just hit, go, and go. I wanted to ask you this. What was going through your head? Because you hadn't met me. We sit down and we do this massive marathon live stream. I've never asked you this. What were you thinking?
I was just so happy to be talking to someone who brings as much energy and humor and enthusiasm to their stories as I do. Like I was just so fun and easy and natural and comfortable to talk to you because you're good at talking. You bring passion to your stories. And it's almost like, I feel a little weird describing it this way, but like, I feel like if someone asks me a question, I might have 10 different ways to answer the question, but I know what's going to be a good, interesting, fun, perhaps depending on the context, answer. And I want the person asking me the question to be like engaged in what I have to say. Like it matters to me whether people are engaged in what I'm saying. And I just felt that from you. You knew what was engaging. And I feel the reason I say I feel weird describing it that way is because it sounds like I'm talking about a performance, and I'm not. I'm talking about caring whether what I'm saying is interesting to the person I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just felt that from you so much that it was just so much fun because we were both bringing that energy to the conversation. And I just remember that's what made it feel like 4 hours went by like nothing, because it wasn't work. And some conversations feel like work.
Yeah. And I remember because I had been watching your videos for a few months by then. And I remember towards the end, because you had to use the bathroom so bad, but I really wanted to do the super chats, because when I would watch your videos, I would see you do the super chats at the end. And I always loved the questions that people would ask. So as a viewer, that was one of my favorite parts of your videos. So I had said to you, I'm like, oh, well, can we just do some of the super chats, like go through the questions? And yeah, you stuck it out, even though you probably had to pee like a racehorse.
Did we? And we did them? We did do them, right?
Did. Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say in retrospect, if we hadn't, now I wish I would have just taken a break and come on back. And speaking of which, Marilyn is so good at starring comments as we go that I think, and since we're just being casual today, let's take up comments as we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, guys. I got my seltzer water here. So let me just, I'll just go through what's started so far. Janet Burns, thank you for being a member for 8 months. And actually, since this is on both of our channels, some of what we're pulling up might be on yours as well, I guess. Janet Burns, also a member for 8 months. That must be on both channels. Paul T, aloha, and many years to come. And we've got Clearwater George here, surrounded by Scientology. Happy anniversary, Nat. Happy holidays to all on my bike ride for the next 2 hours. So please don't make me laugh or cry too hard and crash. And then maybe me and Aaron can go for a beer this afternoon. Zena Marlene to that. Me and Taz, hip, hip, hooray. It's your anniversary today. Thank you, Erin, for bringing Natalie into our lives. JN Books, welcome as a new channel member. Cubana Chicana, we're so grateful you started your channel, Natalie. We got Relatable Reese up in the hizzy. Happy anniversary, Nat. Love you both.
Love you, Reese. We had a fun time last night. You should have seen her face when I told her to celebrate my 1 year. I bought myself a puzzle. It's brilliant.
Atkins in Texas, you're one of a kind, Natalie. Can't express adequately what your presence in my life has meant, truly. Venus Blue, I knew I'd be crying on this live. Passes out tissues. Nicole, now I have to know what country CHF comes from. Anybody know? CHF currency. Going to Google it real quick. It is Switzerland.
Ooh.
Happy anniversary, Natalie. Marcy Pokes and Pocus. It seems like you two knew each other forever at that chat. Indigo's Insights, Scientology, gifted 1 channel membership for Natalie's channel. Fantastic. Just a Northern Girl. So true. Your vibes totally match up. Okay, good. I'm going to unstar these, and then we'll take a pause on this for the moment. Also, since we're just kind of casually kicking it, I've been meaning to do a specific thank you to everyone who participated in the chatathon the other day. Do you mind if I give all those people a shout out real quick?
Please do. Please do.
And this is for the chatathon to raise money for the SPT Foundation. And first I want to mention Marilyn Honig, who was part of the chatathon, but also separately by, I want to say auctioning, but it's not auctioning. She's making all these adorable knitted flying monkey dolls, and also she made the Xenu mask that she did auction off there, or the first person to donate $1,000. Marilyn's raised almost at least $2,000 for the foundation so far with her knitting projects, which is absolutely amazing. It almost makes her the largest single contributor to the SPTV Foundation so far. So looking at you, Marilyn. Thank you very much. Now, I actually went through the whole 10-hour live stream, and I noted down everyone who appeared on screen to participate. And it was, of course, Clearwater Chad and Dusty Soda Dispenser. I call him Dusty Soda Fountain. From a Poet, Brian Lucas. Cindy, oh, hell no. David, Eat More Pizza Now. Dawn, Miss Sunrise Dawn. John Poe, Poe on the Go. Kelly Artology. Journey. The channel's just Journey, but I don't actually know the name of the woman on the channel, or at least I couldn't figure it out from watching the video. Jen, Pup Groomer. Reconnecting. Nikolai, DJ Nico, and Peter Panzerati from Clearwater, and Brad from Drop Short Media, and Miriam from Scientology up north. So thank you, all of you, very much.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it.
It's so fantastic.
Lena on Me says, not fair for those of us that are thinking we can do videos, knowing we don't have the buttery smooth voice as you two have.
That is so funny because I don't think that. Even before, when I used to work in radio, I hated listening to my own shows. And even now, I'll go back and I'll make clips, or I'll make shorts from my videos. And I don't know if it's a thing like listening to our own voices, but I am not a huge fan. So when I hear that, I'm like, wow, thank you. That's like, why don't we hear our own voices that way? I don't know, but thank you.
That's right, because you do have a history in radio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked on a pop culture station out here in the Twin Cities that just did pop culture and stuff. And also it helps to have good equipment, a better microphone. My life goals, I want to now at my office where I used to be, but that mic belongs to somebody else. I want to work up to getting one of those Shure mics. This works really well though. This was on Amazon. I think it was under $60, but I got to work up to, those are good, but they really give that buttery voice.
If you get a good mic and you get in the habit of talking in kind of a soft lower register, I think it's funny. I noticed that when I do my own videos, I tend to be in my higher voice here, but when I go on other people's podcasts, I tend to be in my lower register here.
Because it gets very intimate.
I don't know if you watch a lot of like just one-on-one podcasts, but it's become somewhat fashionable, particularly amongst like the Silicon Valley tech bros, to imitate Sam Altman and his vocal fry, to be like, if I try to do it, I won't be able to do it. Do you know what vocal fry is? It's when
I don't know what vocal fry is.
It's like this, and it's supposed to make you sound really sophisticated and thoughtful. And so sometimes when I go on other people's podcasts, I end up talking. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going on about this, but it's this incredibly annoying thing that more and more people are doing, because people like Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, he goes on these podcasts, and I'm like, there's no way this guy talks this way in private life. And he's like just very quiet and he's always like, oh, I don't know, give me something I can say. Natalie, I think your videos are so good. And there you go. I don't know why I'm going on about this, but it's just fun.
Well, you're passionate about it.
Oh, we're talking about smooth, buttery voices. Yeah. Just talk quietly and as softly and deeply as you can, and you'll sound very sophisticated and buttery.
I've had to learn to not, because this will be a shocker to everybody, but I can be quite loud. and kind of remember too, to back it up, because in radio, we had to be right on the mic. It was a style of mic that we just had to be closer to. But with this one, if I get right on it, it's too loud. And because my voice sometimes I think will be louder, because too, when I did radio, we were trained to project. And sometimes it's just like too much.
So when you were on radio, you had to keep it very, very close, and you would project?
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was years ago. It was the technology. Like, I'm not sure. But yeah, we had to be in the studio. It was really close. I remember thinking, like, I could not have sit back like this. I think it might be the technology and just even, the bandwidth. But I definitely like being a bit more chill about it. But I have to get into that habit. And if I get really excited, which I often do, and then I'll get really close, because then I get really loud, and then I'm flailing around and knocking crap over. I've had to like clear my area in my office, because I still will knock things. I'll knock my own mic over all the time. I bang. The table's shaking. It's just like a hot mess. I'm still figuring it all out. I'm figuring so much of it out still.
Yeah. All right, let me not fall behind on these. Georgia Burke, member for 8 months. Love you both. Your personalities are so amazing. Thank you, Georgia. Dogs Unite Against Scientology. I should be doing something other than this, but I had to make this one live. Congratulations on your year. And I'll save that other one for later. Helena Flock of Swan Boats. It's crochet. Oh, did I say knitting? I'm sorry. That's derogatory. I apologize.
Get it right, Asmithlevin.
It's crochet. Sorry, us crocheters are a little pedantic about that. Congratulations, Natalie. It's been a pleasure joining your mod squad to end this cult.
I hear it in her accent. I finally got to meet her on a video call, and she has I think it's an Australian accent. I'm so sorry if I'm getting it wrong, Helena. But I hear it all now in her voice. And talk about buttery voices. She's got a great voice, and she speaks so softly, and there's so much kindness behind it. But I love that she pointed that out. I didn't realize that either, that crocheting wasn't knitting. Good to know. Good to know.
Eat more pizza now. David says, happy anniversary through all the ups and downs that we all go through. We are still here. Protect the kids, protect the elderly. Mm-hmm. Yes. Nicole the Kiwi. Natalie, tell Erin the story of the scare on the live the other night. Mouse boot. Oh, she told me yesterday.
Yeah, I think I told you on the phone.
Yeah.
You got your own private live stream.
I was equally horrified.
Yeah, it was bad.
Pinche Becky. Happy anniversary, Natalie. I always look forward to your recap. And Arkansas Flamingo missed the start. Dang. Love you both so much. Great work. Eat more pizza now. Yes, I hate my voice too. I don't want to admit it, but I'm going to admit it. I must be the only person in the world who re-listens to my videos and goes, yeah, I like that.
I like the videos. Like, I'll watch and I'll go, okay, because I'm like so excitable. And that, I think, is part of, if anybody's thinking about like doing YouTube, big thing that I've learned in the last year is that, like, I don't have to tone that down. I mean, I think it depends on what it is, but the more you just be yourself and share that story or what you're sharing. And I love seeing and getting to know so many of these people and seeing them in the chat over and over and over again and on different channels. It's been really fun.
Yeah. It is amazing to see the people who've regularly been watching and engaging in the live chat for years and years and years. Now, I know your channel's only a year old, but still.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah, there's been many who've been there, though, since like day one that are still there, and so many new people as well. And it's interesting because there's so many, there's a lot that's happened, not just with me, but the world, the whole YouTube, our community. And that just seems to be just how it will always be. Things are always moving and changing. And to experience that while also going through things outside of YouTube, bringing it to YouTube, it was the opposite of how I thought that would work. I thought, no, because I was still thinking a little bit more with a Scientology point of view. It's no, if my job on YouTube is to share stories and news and recap Scientology culty stuff, then I need to be able to do that and not be, blubbering and crying like I did this morning. But I've come to learn that on YouTube, it's really about connecting with that creator or that person whose channel it is, and people can take it or leave it. And I've been getting more comfortable with that level of vulnerability. And I've talked with you some about that too, is finding that there's a difference between being willing to talk about anything and being willing to really be vulnerable. That's a big thing that I've learned too. And I've been working on being okay more with, like, like when I do cry, when these things happen, because sometimes I don't know. Most of the time, I always go into it thinking it's not going to happen. Even this morning, I'm like, nope, I can do it. I can do it. I can talk about what's happening. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Yep, we're fine. We're fine. And I go and I do it. And I'm like, Oh my gosh. What am I thinking like that?
Yeah.
But just
I mean,
letting it happen.
I just think it's one of the reasons that your videos are so um magnetic to people is you're just very authentic and you're very good at that. Even if it's something you feel like you've gotten more and more comfortable with, I feel like it's something that was that really shone through right from the beginning. And I think in this YouTube world where you have stuff, it's content driven, but even content to a large degree, I think is personality driven. I think people just connect with authenticity. Do they feel like they're right there in the room with you, and what you get on screen is what you get off screen, and with you that is definitely the case. I mean, people who meet me in real life go, "Oh my God, you're just like in your videos." I go, "Yeah, that's what makes videos easy to do. You don't have to work on them. You just have to know what you're going to talk about and go and talk about it, and what happens happens."
Yeah.
But I think that you have that just naturally, and I think that's why this has worked for you, which sort of leads me into a question that I want to ask you, because it's a question I feel like I always answer when I go on podcasts, and I'd like to know how you think about it, which is, how do you think about what it is you do on YouTube and why you do it and what keeps you going and what you think you're accomplishing, and what just how do you think about it in general?
How I think about it has really changed. When I first started, I thought about it as this is such an opportunity to get back. Because when I first left Scientology, I was vocal about it, but I was vocal about it because I had no other choice. I had to get Scientology off my back, off my daughter's back, because they were trying to interfere with my family. Big surprise. I know that that would happen. And then I thought, well, you know what? So many people who shared their stories, who spoke out about Scientology, were key in me making the decision to leave and helping my family understand what was really up and leaving. So I felt I want to be able to come back and do that for other people too. Now, how that's changed over the year is I still very much feel that, but there's this whole other aspect to it of realizing that people appreciate these stories because they can relate to them even though they've never been in Scientology, and we can talk things through, and how much I learned from them, but they're able to realize things too that help them in their life. I never expected that, and that has been a big driver for me, especially after Tony died, to keep showing up. Is I feel like I want to keep showing up and doing a good show and helping to educate about Scientology, but also in a way that's entertaining and fun. Because it's really hard to talk about, a human trafficking cult and all of those things. That's probably my two big drivers, is knowing that I want to be able to use my voice to continue to expose Scientology, but they're shrinking on their own. But I also it's like I love sharing other people's stories. That's why I like doing the recap. I love being able to elevate other voices, or just show what other people are doing, because there's so much. What I've been dying to do, that it's just really more of a time thing. I want to get into more doing like reactions or commentary on even other cults and how that relates to Scientology. I think that's kind of going to be part of more of what I'll get into as well. But connecting with the audience, learning about them, and getting their feedback on what they get out of my videos is literally so many days since Tony died, especially. I wake up and I lay there, and so many days, less now, I was like, yeah, I'm just not getting out of bed today. I'm just not doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just, check your email and look at any emails. And the people who send me links and articles and timestamps, and their passion for it and their desire to get that message out then motivates me. And next thing I know, I'm like in the shower and I'm getting up and I'm doing this show. And I've done shows where 10 minutes prior, I was a crying mess. And it just helps me kind of switch that mindset and helps me start my day on a stronger note. But those two things there, the audience, and then just being able to continue to expose Scientology and speak freely. Because Erin, even after I left, I didn't publicly as much. It was more like I would tell my story, but being able to like laugh about things in Scientology now on YouTube, this is the first time I've done that. And I cannot get enough of the joking and degrading. I'm like just a joking and degrading, I love it.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's great. If you look at all of the things that have been produced and put out in the media, whether it's specials by 2020 or ABC or CNN, or whether it's documentaries or whether it's TV shows, all of these things, whenever they happen in the former Scientology world, they were always a big deal to us. Oh my God, they're going to do a 1-hour expose on Anderson Cooper. This is huge. This is amazing. This is going to have a big impact. And you go, but what is the information they're putting out? They're putting out stories in soundbite form, short form, of former Scientologists.
Mhm.
They're putting out true stories about the experience of former Scientologists. And, with a 1-hour special, you take out the commercial breaks, you've got about 40 minutes of content. And it just used to be that that's the only way that type of content got out in the world. It had to be produced, pre-edited, recorded. There's a cost to it. There's a time expense to it. And it was always very exciting when that final product got out there in the world. And the way I think about it is like, if that 40 minutes of content going out to, I don't know, a million or a few million people is a huge deal, then what else would be a huge deal is us putting out an hour of content every day to millions of people, putting out 30 hours of content every day to millions of people. Even a documentary like Going Clear, I forget how long it was, but it was perhaps 90 minutes, right? Huge deal. Huge deal. Oh my God, all these stories are getting out into the world. It was a huge deal. And it was a huge deal, and it is a huge deal. But no matter what you put out into the world, it has a shelf life. Even the Scientology and Aftermath show, huge deal. But let's say, how many episodes are in a season? Less than 10. How long is each episode? Commercial breaks, 30, 35, 40 minutes max. But it was a huge deal when those stories got put out there. But again, you put that out there, it's got a shelf life. How many people are going to be watching it 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later? That's sort of how I think about the general value of former Scientologists just telling amazing stories in easily consumable format. Be funny, be entertaining, be joking and degrading, but put it out there and be prolific. I was, I actually went back recently and rewatched the chat that I did with Lex Friedman, where we were talking about how is Scientology able to silence people, and how has the internet age affected that? And while talking about it, we basically said, or I said to him, Scientology used to be able to control the narrative on the internet. They really used to be able to do that, but they can't anymore. And the way I think about the value of what we're doing out here is any information that you put out there as a former Scientologist that's just telling your story, explaining things, telling other people's stories, bringing other people on, you are preventing Scientology from being able to control the narrative.
Mhm.
And I remember saying that it's one of the reasons I decided to upload every single day, and that I, have 20, 30, 40 people uploading every single day, is that it just makes it impossible for Scientology to control the narrative. And if you think about what a big deal it used to be for a documentary to launch, or a special to launch, or a season of a TV show to launch, I feel like it's just as special to have people putting out that much content every single day. And it just brings me joy to know how much it drives Scientology crazy to have former Scientologists out there putting out content at no cost, no expense, no editors, no producers, no lawyers. We can all put out whatever we want, whenever we want. And there's not a damn thing Scientology can do about it.
Yeah. Learning all of the behind the scenes things too, like on YouTube, that you need to do, from thumbnails and titles to descriptions to just that whole piece of it, has been really interesting, annoying at times, but it's such a big part of it. So it was like learning this whole new language too. I'm still trying to understand a lot of it, but at least I have like the basics down of what analytics to pay attention to, and really viewing it as as something like I knew that if I wanted to do this full time, because I remember I even asked you, like, what do you think it would take in terms of scheduling? And you're like, upload every day if you're going to live stream. And then that is just what I did. And I went at it and learned more about how YouTube works, how the algorithm works, how you get to know your viewers. And there's just so much to it. I feel like it could take years in ways to understand. And that's something too, I think that in ways I feel like Scientology didn't count on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would think that this is what makes, I don't understand sometimes, because considering like they know how many of us grew up, especially the former Scientologists who grew up in the Sea Organization. I didn't grow up in the Sea Org. I mean, I was in the Sea Org as a teen, but I grew up as a public Scientologist. Growing up in the Sea Org, however you grow up, learning to, having a kind of a next level work ethic, all of these things that we wouldn't somehow be able to like use that in our exposure of Scientology, or more so, because you and I both agree, I think we both agree on this, that we don't see it as a battle. It's just they're bringing themselves down. We're just pointing, like saying, hey, look what's happening over here, and adding to it along the way. It's crazy.
It's funny that I don't see it as a battle. I almost see it like a big brother holding the hand of the little brother and being like, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Like, I feel like we are the ones bullying Scientology into submission. Do you feel like I feel like they've gone into complete apathy over the fact that there's literally nothing they can put out there on the internet about any of us that's going to have any impact on us in any way, shape, or form. I'm starting to feel sorry for them. I'll be honest.
Okay, I didn't want to admit that. But I've had moments not feeling sorry for Scientology as a whole. For me, it's more because I think about the individual Sea Org members that are, whether they're with the Office of Special Affairs or whoever, who consume the content or write the reports about it. Those are the people I sometimes think about. Like, how are you going to recap my recap? How are you going to, somebody has to listen to it. Somebody has to, I know they watch every single thing you do. I don't know how much of my stuff they watch. When we were in Clearwater, in fact, and we went protesting at Flag, we were in a library across the street from the Coachman, and they kept moving people around because they were watching your stream. So I snuck out of the library.
We flanked them.
And they had no idea, because I thought, and I'll admit it, I was a little butthurt because I'm like, are they not watching my stream? Are they really just watching Erin's? Erin. So I'm like, I didn't even tell you guys because I didn't want them to hear. I went downstairs and snuck over to the Coachman and just got bus after bus of Sea Org members who were leaving. And I'm like, yeah, teach you to not watch my stream.
I'll tell you who I don't feel sorry for. The OSA staff who have the honor and the privilege of being assigned to watch all of our content. They are secretly so happy to be able to watch so much fun and funny and interesting content. And imagine the act that they have to put on to act like how interpolated they are, that they had to watch all this N theta at the end of the day. Meanwhile, they're like, I can't wait to see what they come out with tomorrow. That's why they're not blowing. That's why they're not blowing. They're having so much fun watching our content.
I think you're right. I did not think about it like that, Erin, but I think you were onto something. I often will say in a live stream, like, I hope that you're getting some enjoyment out of this, because I know you are underpaid, you are overworked, potentially malnourished.
They have the sweetest gig in the Sea Org, other than the Flag bus drivers. How fun would it be to be a Flag, other than the fact that you're going to do that for the rest of your life? Like all the stress that Sea Org members have to put up with. Imagine just being like, and because they have their beautiful fleet of brand new buses, and just be like, my job is just to drive the damn bus everywhere, and I'm doing my job. I wonder how they assign ethics conditions for the bus drivers, stat conditions at the end of the week. So between driving the buses and watching SPTV content, those have got to be the sweetest gigs in the Sea Org right now.
Worst job in the Sea Org is probably the people who have to deliver further up the line you know, what people are saying or what's happening or who came out. Because think about it, like when I was in the Sea Org, their biggest thing was like all these roll calls so we can see if anyone blew, if anybody took off. Now every day it's like, oh gosh, I got to open YouTube and find out what they're saying now.
That's right. They're like, who's leaking the birthday game standings? This is unbelievable.
That was awesome. I cannot believe that you got your hands on that. I saw that video the other day and it really brought it home. When you said that there were like 10 books sold for one of the top orgs, I was like, holy mo, how it's worse than we even thought.
It would be one thing if it was just 10 books sold to raw public out of the bookstore on a normal week. It's another thing if it's literally an international bookathon challenge and your goal is to send out teams to sell as many books as possible. And you're in the top 10 in the world when you've sold 10 cumulatively, not 10 for the day, 10 cumulatively.
That's just nuts.
Yeah. All right, let's get caught up on some of these starred comments. Mischief Managed, member for 5 months. Happy 1 year, Natalie. Love to you both. Helena Flock of Swan Boats. I got you back, Marilyn. Oh, that was about the crochet comment. And Jolie says, congratulations. Just love you and your channel. Put this towards a kick arse puzzle.
Yeah, I shared my, well, I do have a love of puzzles and I've not done puzzles in a long time, but I got a puzzle for myself to celebrate my 1 year, which Reese was like, ooh, girl. And she's right. I really need to up my game on that kind of stuff, but I didn't get a chance to break it out last night, but I am going to break it out today. And now I'm inspired to get back to doing puzzling. For me is a way to, if I'm having a hard time with something and I go and I work on a puzzle, I don't know why. And I bet that Powerlized to Paralyzed could explain the phenomena, but it breaks through any kind of a block or, you know what I'm saying? If I'm like, oh, I'm just stuck on this, I just go and I puzzle and it's like the solutions start to like come to me. I'm not even thinking about it. It's very meditative for me. So thank you, Jolie. And I will be buying some puzzles with that.
Have you ever had one of those custom puzzles made out of like a photograph that you provided?
You know what? I made it for somebody else, but I've never had one myself.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would.
I feel like you may have already answered this a little bit, but just in case there's more to say, Eunice Swag Pants. Natalie, what has surprised you the most about having your channel?
Well, I did pretty much answer that earlier. I think every day, I think I'm just amazed. I think what surprises me is like I have now it's 1 year, right? Give me 9 years and let's see where we're at. But I'm so excited about doing it. I so enjoy it. And I enjoy it in a way that's like, it's truly joy, which sounds weird to be talking about Scientology. Because I've had, even my sister, I've had family members be like, I don't know how you talk about it every day. Even other former Scientologists. And I don't fault for them for that at all. I don't know how you talk about it every day. I couldn't do that. And I'm like, I don't know why. I just know that each time I get to raise awareness, you know, joke and degrade about it or whatever it is, it just makes me feel joyful. And I think a lot of it is because growing up, we were never allowed to push back. We were never allowed to question. We were never allowed to laugh about something that would have been normal to laugh about. And combine that with the fact that, you know, I really have, like, I'm living in real time right now, like how life is too short. I don't want to spend a lot of time. You know, I'm already working through my grief. That's going to be enough. I don't want to spend, I want to have as much happiness and joy as I can. And like when you and Jenna would come to visit and we would, or I would go to Clearwater and we think, oh, we're going to do all this content. And we don't do anything because it's just enjoyable too, to just hang out. So there is a balance there, but I think you're the same way though, too. We seem to both kind of really enjoy it. And some others do too, but for some it's difficult to do every day. And I totally respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cooler by the Lake, member for 8 months. Can't believe it's been a year already. Congratulations. Duchess Diana, happy anniversary, Natalie. I can't believe it's been a year. Daniel Sander, thank you for gifting 5 channel memberships. Galen 209, happy anniversary, Natalie. Shelly Kelly, happy YouTube anniversary. And Indigo Insights, Scientology. You have a beautiful strength, Natalie. I look up to you because I see all you've been through, and you are so compassionate and able to support others. Truly amazing.
Aw.
And Wooly says, loved your catch up today. Had my tears going too. Thinking of my mom who passed a couple of weeks before your Tony.
Wow. Yeah, it was a tough one this morning. And thank you to everybody who got through that with me. Each video I start out when I know it's something difficult to talk about. And I don't know why. I always think, nope, it's fine. It'll be totally fine. And sometimes it's not fine, and it's fine, and it's back and forth. And that's just how it goes.
And since the subject came up, I'll go back to this one that I'd skipped earlier and saved for later. Catmandu, do more Scientologists get cancer than in the general population? 2 people in the Scientology side of our family died of cancer within a few weeks of each other. I don't know how the actual statistics match up. And, anecdotally, I can tell you, it can feel that a huge percentage of Scientologists who die of cancer. Without actually running the numbers, though, anecdotal experiences can be a little misleading. And so that's why I'm never going to have an honest answer to this question, an honestly accurate answer to this question. But what are your thoughts on this, Natalie?
I think part of the problem, and I do think that there are more, my opinion, again, I too don't have the numbers to back it up, that there's more of an issue with that because there's no preventative care. I think that maybe the same amount of people numbers might get cancer as opposed to people not outside of Scientology. But how many people successfully treat that, I think would be different in Scientology, because often the first thing is, well, let's apply more Scientology. That's what happened with my mom. She had kidney failure, and it was like, you just need to get through operating Thetan level 5. No, what she needed was a kidney transplant, not, do more Scientology. I think it's the lack of preventative care. Look how many Sea Organization members are not getting annual mammograms. Look how many men over 50 in the Sea Org are not getting an annual PSA blood test to make sure they don't have prostate cancer, when 1 in 6 men are going to end up with prostate cancer. It's not being done. So by the time they get sick, it's further down the road, and then it's harder to treat. So I think that's why it seems that there's more. I think there's not enough preventative care. And I don't know why, even in the Sea Org, they wouldn't just take those precautions, because there's probably programs in places where they could be doing it without cost.
Yeah,
But they
absolutely.
won't.
Yep. Pinche Becky, your stories of abuse and disconnection is what keeps us never ends going and informing about this cult. Thank you, Pinche Becky. Rain Virus, I love that you came up with the recap because it was getting so hard to keep up with the protesters. So many of them. Yeah.
That was actually kind of partly your idea, Erin, because when we were talking about it, and I was going to do my channel, you like threw out there, you're like, you know what nobody's doing? They're not covering all of this that's going on. And I thought, good, I'll do that. Like, that's in my wheelhouse. Having worked in media before, I'm like, I can do that. Because I didn't want to come onto the scene and not have something new and additional to give and to contribute to this community. And because there's so many, and still are, amazing voices sharing their stories, educating people on Scientology, their experiences. And I'm amazed by it. I think in some ways I have the easier job, because I will share anecdotes about my story, things that come in as I do a recap, but not, and maybe that's why it's easy to do every day, because it's not every day of the difficult parts of my story. I'll talk about it sometimes, but you know what I'm saying? So I'm creating content around sharing all these different things. And it's exciting for me because I get to look and see what's happening across the country, across the world, like many do. And I find it's weird because I consider myself to be more of a viewer, or I think of myself a lot as just like how people in the chat are. They're watching all these different channels. I'm doing the same thing, but then also do a channel recapping the stuff that I watch or what people email me. And it's fascinating for me too, to see what they're interested in. Because the thing I learn on YouTube is you got to find out what your audience wants and you got to give it to them. And that's why every day I'm like, if you see something, say something, email me, Natalie at lifeafteroccult.com, a link, a timestamp, all of that. Cause it really helps me guide and see what people are really interested in talking about. And often it's not the things I would have chosen to talk about.
That's interesting. That is interesting. Kelly Copter says, I love to watch you shine, Natalie. You are a superstar and bring positivity wherever you go.
Thank you. I was fortunate
Kelly.
enough. We got to meet Kelly in person earlier this year in April. That was so fantastic. Got to meet Liz Gale too when we were all in Clearwater. But Kelly, love you. She's so talented.
Yeah. Lena on me. Would you two, along with Reese, consider doing an essay on how to start YouTube for those of us that want to speak out about abusive systems we have been a part of? I feel like we have done this to a degree. The answer is yes. I like talking about the YouTube, like the business of YouTube, the work of YouTube, the back, the back, the words are
the
escaping me.
The analytics.
Yeah. But the truth is, the best answer to this question, and the reason why YouTube is such a good platform, is that it really requires nothing.
Well, I mean, maybe for you, Asmithlevin.
No, but I mean, even the way that we do it, like the way that I started technically would have been the harder way to start. I didn't start doing live streams. I started doing pre-records and editing and, required a microphone and everything. But, the qualities of the phones these days are such that if you really wanted to get started with nothing, do it with your phone. No, even external mic. The mic's on the phone, on the mic facing you on the phone these days is so good. You actually don't need an external mic. And just go live on YouTube and do a little thing. Now, someone might go, yes, but that's not how I want to do YouTube. And I'm being kind of long-winded about this. I actually really enjoy giving little tutorials on doing YouTube, but realize it's the easiest thing to do, because the truth is you really could just start with nothing but a phone. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I say do that and work from there. Like, don't try and get everything so perfect and set up.
Yes.
Get your camera out, get your phone out, and just do it. They're even right now, YouTube is really promoting smaller channels. When I look at my feed, I'm seeing channels now with 0 views or 100 subscribers. And I've seen this on a lot of how-to videos. They're talking about how YouTube is really pushing smaller channels and getting them out there into people's feeds. And it's a great opportunity. Everything I've seen, because there's probably not a day that goes by that I don't watch at least part of a YouTube video on how to do YouTube. And again, I'm a year in, and every day I'm still trying to learn about it. And the consistent things that I continue to hear are to mainly just, be yourself, figure out what it is that what your niche is or what you want to do, and then tweak it from there. But just get used to doing it. Just get used to doing the videos, get used to using the back end. Because I think unless you have like a ton of time, it's a lot. It's a lot to learn, but it's not a lot to do. But if you want to be really successful at it, my opinion is you also have to learn the behind the scenes stuff, which there's multiple how-to videos and things about that too. Yeah. I really think people should do it. I've helped people start other podcasts and even like a YouTube channel because they're passionate about something they want to talk about. I love that. When people are excited about something they want to share, I'm like, do it. Do it.
Yes. And, you reminded me that one of the main reasons my advice to anyone that wants to start doing this is just to do it every day isn't because that's necessarily a proven growth strategy. Mm-hmm. It's the proven, the reason it's because of the momentum and the inertia that you create for yourself. When you do it every day, every video becomes and feels less important and less of a big deal. And there's less anticipation, there's less anxiety, there's less nervousness. Like sometimes Jen will be like, I recorded a video, but I'm not happy with it. I go, who cares? Upload it. Tomorrow's another day. Like, would you rather upload 0 videos or a video you're not thrilled with? Like, if you're not thrilled with today's video, make up for it with tomorrow's video. Like, the more you do the less of a big deal every individual video is. And, when you stop doing videos for a while, it can be hard to be like, oh, I'm going to get back into it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you got to climb that. It's like working out.
Yeah.
If you're in the habit of exercising every day, it's no big deal to exercise every day. If you stop for a couple weeks, you're like, oh God, it's going to hurt so much. That's the real reason for the do it every day. Do 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. Just get the reps in so that it just doesn't feel like a big deal. And it's not a big deal.
And know that you said something. Well, you said it a few times. And I think it was the second or third time I heard you say it that I was like, oh, that's right. Because you said, well, if I don't do a video today, I could do 2 videos tomorrow. And it's been an added challenge for me to figure out how to do YouTube, but in a way that is a good, healthy pace and not attack it like a Sea Org member.
Yeah.
That's been a big part of it, of like, oh, I can't have a day where I'm down stat. It's like, no, that's the cult mentality. That's why I'm here, is to get away from that. So I can't treat this like how it was when I was in the Sea Org, and getting comfortable with that. Because I thought, here's the deal. I thought that like, oh no, like I've gotten way more sane about that, my work ethic and all that, because I've been, doing other jobs since I left. And I realized that was just masking it, because I was doing still 100 hours a week. Now, in all honesty, that just had to be my life for the last few years, with Tony not being able to work and everything. And I was helping my dad, who was also sick, and realize like, hey, that is the thing. It's like, if I don't do a video today, there's always tomorrow or more time, and just be more relaxed about it. I feel like that's a challenge, I think, anytime that you're self-employed, because you don't just show up to work and get paid. You can't clock in and clock out and you're going to get this set amount. It's no, your video has to get a certain amount of watch time and be out there to reach what your goals are. So I just started just a couple of weeks ago setting smaller goals for myself, because I am a Virgo. I'm goal oriented. I like to be organized when I can. And that's been helping. But the difference is, I used to make goals for myself like that were just so much higher, more harder targets. And since Tony died, I'm like, okay, who am I kidding? I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I need to lower the bar. So my theme this year has been lower the bar. I need to lower people's expectations, including my own, because that's just how it's going to be for a while. And I might never go back to the level that I worked at before. I'm thinking now, I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that, because I did it for so long that 40 or 50 hours a week of working would feel almost like it's a vacation. Like I have this free time to do these things. And being self-employed, I think it's so hard. It can be difficult to stop, to not just work. That's something big that for me, I'm working on. I need to go outside. I need to see people in real life. I need to go to things in my community. Because I Instacart and stuff too. And I think you and I share this in common. Like, we would just never leave the house. But I'm trying to change that, because there's a whole world out there that I broke free from Scientology to live in. So I want to live in it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. For a really long stretch there, at least a year probably. I was doing 3, 4, 5 hours of live streams a day, not even necessarily on purpose, but like I'd do a 3-hour interview and then I'd do 2 other 45-minute videos. And by the end of the day, I'd add it up. I'd be like, geez, I did 5 hours of live streaming. These days I do like 20 or 30 minutes a day, and I'm not even necessarily doing it every day, but I do still intend to do it every day. I just don't actually get it done every day. So yeah, I've scaled way back as well. And it, particularly the last few weeks, it's felt really, really good.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing, is it does. I never would have thought that working, less. Now I have another job that I do, and there's so much I'm behind on at home. Like, there's no shortage of things to do. I could be working or handling things all the time, I think, like many people, but I'm really trying to make an effort. And I don't know. I keep wanting, like, well, because growing up in a cult is hard to take time off, but I don't know. I feel like if it was just that simple, I would have figured it out by now. But I do struggle with that, with taking time off, just like taking a day or taking an afternoon. And I'm really trying to do that. That's why I've got my puzzle, I've got my coloring book. Somebody sent me these awesome adult coloring books and pens. And like that, well, I obviously lead a very exciting life. I don't want you to be jealous, Erin. I'm over here coloring and doing puzzles.
Now, by adult coloring books, what do we mean exactly?
They're not kid stuff. I know, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, that sounds, I'm not opposed. But they're just coloring books that are more catered to adults. I do a lot of mandalas, but there's something, again, like the puzzles, it's kind of meditative in coloring and doing that.
Nice. April in Amsterdam. Oops, I almost missed your anniversary. I'm glad I caught the tail end. Unless you're going to go for 4 hours. The time flew by with Erin on that first live, and I've been with you both ever since. Congratulations. Thank you, April. CO Bilf. A documentary also has the problem of having to explain the whole thing from scratch to a new audience each time. Yeah, that's true. Eat more pizza now. Much respect for all who are here and out there exposing the truth. You are rock stars. Be safe, everybody. Thank you very much. Just a Northern Girl. How have the two of you managed to deal with and or support each other throughout the last year, especially given all the attacks of late? You both do such a great job on your channels. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, I think I can just speak for my own experience, and me is what people do in different chats or on different channels is just none of my business. Now, sometimes it concerns me. And it's just not something that I, choose to engage in. And that's how I stay out of it, by just staying out of it and trying to also maintain my own, I don't know what I'd call it. Like, I don't want to have a bias. Like, I'm not in middle school, because if Erin doesn't like somebody doesn't mean I don't like them. I mean, I've had people on my channel that you have issues with, and it's never been an issue between us. That's the thing. Or if I disagreed with you about something, or I would let you know or tell you what I thought about something. And I feel like being able to do that is like the way to do that. I do my best to just not get into other people's beefs and argument, because if it doesn't involve me, why would I insert myself and make it about me? And honestly, at the end of the day, I have just too much other shit going on. I'm trying to make it through each day. I'm trying to dress myself and eat. Like, these are little things, but again, for me, it goes back to, I, especially now, need to find all those joy pockets that I can. So if I have free time and the bandwidth to go down a rabbit hole or learn more about something, like, I don't want to put that attention on, somebody else's beef or argument or fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And my thoughts on that are, I mean, usually the only attacks that Natalie gets is for being my friend. So there's not much to defend her on. But this has a little bit to do with how I view YouTube in general. The best that you can do is be as much of the authentic version of yourself as possible in everything that you do.
Mhm.
And you're not going to be able to effectively respond to people who are just dedicated to hating on you and want to see you fail. You're wasting your breath and your time and your effort and your energy to try to change those people's minds about anything. So I just ignore all of that. Also, in another respect, the best revenge is success, and continuing to do what you want to do here on YouTube and cover the things you want to cover, discuss the things you want to discuss, and be the most authentic version of yourself that you can be is really, at the end of the day, all that you can do. So responding to dishonest attacks is a waste of time. The way we support each other mostly is just behind the scenes. It's not even on YouTube, because that's also a distraction. Like, at the end of the day, I do not care what attacks are launched against me. And the only time I've even responded to something is when I felt my audience needed to know something about what was really happening behind the scenes. And other than that, like 99% of our audience has no idea what kind of ridiculous attacks people launch on anyone in our community.
Mhm.
And so it almost gives it more life and breathes it more oxygen to even discuss any of it publicly. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it really has nothing to do with why any of us are on YouTube. And what none of us have ever pretended to be anything other than who we are. So so who gives a shit? And so the real answer to your question is we support each other behind the scenes. We usually don't even spend any time bothering to do it on camera.
Mhm.
Okay, Duchess Diana. Oh, this is also formerly known as Duchess of Chug. She was out there with us in downtown Clearwater earlier this month.
Oh,
Yeah. For the leasing.
Diana, yes.
Yeah. Thank you both for creating a caring community of people who've experienced similar traumas and who want to connect and help each other. Thank you, Diana. And Dogs Unite Against Scientology. First time trying to be on both channels at once. I hope I got it right. If I didn't make buy you a kombucha. Love to both of you. You've made a tough year for me a little better.
Oh, I love that. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I was talking about earlier, is if people can, we can somehow bring some levity. That is just like, that is gold to me. That alone is worth doing this.
Absolutely. Dawn Gloves RN, good to see you. I was never good at tennis, but I was very good at forcing my opponent into making errors. Can't beat them, make them hurt themselves. I think that was stop hating yourself. Stop hating yourself. Stop hating yourself. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, this reminded me of only yesterday did I finally watch the video that Jeff Beaumont did a little bit ago about the Toronto org being kicked out of their building. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, I highlighted it. It was great.
Yeah. Anyway, her comment reminded me of that, of making them make their own errors.
Mhm.
By the way, now I'm dying to know where they're moving to, because I don't think that was in the video.
I don't think that it was. I think they do have it figured out, with kind of the idea that I got, but due to people showing up and protesting Scientology, the landlord was like, "I can't even rent the space next door because of this, so you guys need to go." Honestly, you would imagine that the landlord, if you really like the people, you're not going to listen to what's being said. So I think this is also a PR fail of Scientology in Toronto. You obviously didn't save point the landlord.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just a Kid from Maine. The Aftermath series opened my eyes, and then Aaron took it so much further. I'm so thankful for his plan. It has caused the domino effect necessary to educate so many. Yeah. It's just that, the barrier to entry for former Scientologists just putting out true information about Scientology on YouTube is almost zero, or there's almost no barrier to entry. And that's just why I think it's a good emphasis. It's a good thing to focus on. It's a good thing to encourage people to do. But I think there's enough people doing it now that it's like people can see that it's pretty easy. There's no cost. There's no real backlash to doing it. And I think those that want to do it will naturally gravitate towards it. And that's why I've really sort of stopped like actively cheerleading as many people as possible to do it, because I feel there's enough people that have shown what this is all about that I feel like those who want to do it will just naturally work at it. And so, yeah. Anyway, thank you for the comment. Cubs Champion says, I want to meet my assigned OSA member.
Hey, Cubs. That would be fantastic. How cool would that be?
Yeah. Does it matter to you? Not to me. Says, thank you both for fighting for us. Thank you so much. Artology, new member on one of our channels. Very
Kelly.
Cool. Third things fifth. Natalie, did you do any squirrel auditing after you left?
No, none. When I first left Scientology, my husband at the time still considered himself to be a Scientologist, not part of the Church of Scientology. I was done. Like, I was done. I was not going to do any more Scientology ever again. And So that is where, like, so Marty Rathbun at the time, a lot of people were publishing blog posts, or he was doing articles on his blog of people leaving Scientology, where you'd make this announcement that you're leaving, because that was impactful for people like me who wanted to leave, to see that people were, and successfully, and it was fine. You did not melt or blow. I got accidentally muted there for a second. So at that time, but even my former husband never did any more Scientology, and he eventually came around and realized that the problem was largely the doctrine, and the harmful practices within Scientology existed because L. Ron Hubbard wrote them, and others perpetuated them and put another twist on it. But no, basically, I never did any more auditing. I never did a touch assist, a contact assist, and have zero intention of ever doing something like that again. I get how some do. I feel like it can be a process of leaving. You're leaving the Sea Org, but you're still going to be a Scientologist. That's what I did. I left the Sea Org because I thought, oh, the Sea Org is just super messed up, but Scientology must be okay. And then I became a public Scientologist for some time and was like, oh, turns out no. It's all kind of messed up, but it's a process for people.
I messaged a former Sea Org member who was in the Sea Org when I was. I consider her to have been very, very high up because of the lines that she was on. She was very high up on the ethics and justice lines. And she's an example of someone who, if she actually spoke out publicly, because she never has, would be really, 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 really juicy and like real dirt. Like she knows where bodies are buried. And I asked her if she would ever want to come on my channel, and she didn't seem to be familiar with my channel. And she said that she and her husband are independent Scientologists and are auditing on OT7.
Wow.
And I instantly doubted whether I would want to have her on my channel. And because I thought it would put me in an awkward position of like, I don't know. There's the reason I'm even bringing it up is because I wanted to ask you, would you have any qualms about bringing on someone who still believed enough in Scientology that they're literally auditing on OT7 in the independent field?
I think I would have them on because I would be curious of what was your experience that caused you to leave Scientology, and how do you reconcile those things not being connected to L. Ron Hubbard, or are you just taking the things that worked for you? I think I'm very curious about what makes people tick. I would do it, but my qualm with it would be worrying about backlash they would get from other people who are not familiar so much with independent Scientologists. I think out of curiosity, I would do it, but I would want them to understand, hey, there might be some comments and stuff like that. There might be some hate, but I think there's so many aspects to Scientology and leaving and former Scientologists that maybe it could bring more understanding to the rest of us who've left, and we look at that and go, why are you doing that? I think that's the question. I would want to know and understand why you're doing that. And you have a right to do it. And if it's working for you and you guys aren't hurting other people or practicing some of the harmful practices of Scientology, then, then whatever you do, you boo, whatever floats your boat there.
Yeah.
But
I feel like if I brought someone like that on, it would not be to talk to them about independent Scientology in any way. It would be to talk to them about what I want to talk to them about. But I feel like if they happen to bring up in the interview that they still think Scientology is great and the tech is great and they're auditing on OT7, I don't feel like I'd be able to not challenge them on that. And then I'd feel a little bad that, like, why am I bringing someone on just to run them down? And I feel like it would be a distraction. And I started to doubt the whole thing,
Well, what about this point of view? What about this? A lot of what we both do, right? We have a channel. We're a host when we have a guest, and we're hosting that guest to have a conversation. And it can be very interesting. And I think we can learn things when they don't always agree. having the ability to have a conversation that might be really difficult because there could be potential conflict, because we don't agree, because we might be so turned off to the idea of doing any Scientology. I think it would be a challenge to do, but I think even for you, it could be really meaningful in ways, because I bet our audience has those same questions. And I think it would be bringing a whole nother aspect of Scientology and leaving Scientology and Scientologists that has not really been talked about. But as people who are YouTube creators, like, I think this is another thing I've had to learn over the last year is sometimes I even have a conflict between Natalie as a person and Natalie as a content creator. Natalie as a person, I might want to do things one way, but Natalie as a content creator or as the host of a show, I'm thinking about my audience and what questions they might have or what they want to know. So I get it. And I feel like that's kind of the same internal conflict maybe for you, right? As a former Scientologist, like for some of us, we can't wrap our heads around that. But I think it would be a really interesting video. And I hope that things like that, where it pushes us and it challenges us, I think would be great videos because of that. But it can be difficult to do. But I think you could do it. I think you should do it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's one of the reasons it's one of the reasons I haven't done an interview with my mom, is because I do not want to have that argument in public. We already have that argument in private and it never goes well. I do not want to be arguing over whether the tech is good or bad, or whether there's anything scientific to it in any way, shape, or form, or whether having audited, hundreds of people or tens of thousands of hours makes someone an expert in whether, because there is a little bit of a conflation of, I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole. Anyone who spent tens of thousands of hours of doing something is going to be very, very convinced of the rightness and legitimacy and truth and accuracy and value of what it is that they did. And yet I feel like there's a lack of understanding of how the entire Scientology auditing process is set up in a way where there's literally nothing scientific or valid. Even if you have people saying, yes, it helped me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. 40% of people who give a sugar pill also say that they're helped. You're also in a situation where you're being told that this thing is supposed to help you, and you're paying a lot of money for it, and you're not allowed to even go on to the next level until you say that it's helped you, and saying that it hasn't helped you. There's a high social cost for saying it hasn't helped you. Mm-hmm. There's a monetary cost for saying it hasn't helped you. Engaging in tens of thousands of hours of this process does not mean it's now scientific or valid. Like, it just doesn't. But I don't want to have that. I don't want to bring my mom on just to have that argument,
But that's the thing. I think you wouldn't be the person to interview your mom. I could interview your mom because I don't have the history with her. So in my eyes, it's not about proving her wrong or getting her to see things my way. I look at it like, if I'm hosting a guest on a YouTube channel, it's to have that conversation and try to understand, for me, how she got there and why she got there, not to convince her or have her agree with me. Because I think it's important to separate those things out. And that's where I mean, sometimes there's Natalie the person, Natalie the creator, is giving that even a voice and opening up the conversation. I think that's interesting. I don't think that it should always be where I'm just going to be having on or interviewing people that I completely agree with or that completely agree with me, who are capable of having that conversation.
Maybe you interview my mom.
I would interview your mom if your mom wants to come on and talk about it, because it wouldn't be my intention to convince her that what she's doing is wrong. My goal is to help me.
And also that's probably not even why she would want to do an interview. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if she wants to do it, I'll do it.
She did say, she did basically offer to come on and have me interview her. And she did say, look, I'm not going to come on and argue against anything that you believe to be true. I just think there's just a lot of reasons why it would be hard.
Well, I think being your mother, I don't think that you should do it. In the same way that, like, even though I had Shelby, my daughter, on my channel, I always knew that it would be better if you interviewed her. And sure enough, it was such a great interview because, one, I find for me as an interviewer, if I know the answers to the questions, it's harder for me to ask them because I'm not
Mm,
thinking of that because I already know, but the audience doesn't. And
mm,
my daughter is somebody, I have raised from birth. And you were able to ask her questions and go places that I couldn't or didn't with her. The other thing is I wasn't trained as an auditor the way that
mm,
she was. I,
mm,
I think that really that makes a difference. Same thing with my sister. I've done multiple videos with Lana, and she keeps dropping these freaking crazy stories that I've never heard because we don't sit around as a family and talk about what happened 25, 30 years ago. But we are starting to more now because the biggest thing is Lana had to get far enough in her healing. And
mm,
for her, it took till earlier this year till she
mm.
could talk about it. So she was willing to do it. I mean, and that's why I think that you should interview Lana because
Yeah.
that would take out that same reason why I don't think you should interview your mom. um it just takes that out of it just makes it easier to do, and I think you would ask questions. And then she's been on my channel enough that she's gotten more comfortable, and now I know it's easier. Like the other day we're sitting in my living room, and then I just got on a live stream, whereas if I'm sitting in my office and there's lights and all that, she kind of clams up,
Mm.
but she's gotten more used to it. So I think that in the same, I should interview your mom and you interview my sister.
Yes, I'm
Trade.
putting Lana back to the top of my list,
Yeah.
which every time you mention her, I put her to the top of my list.
Just cannot believe what comes out of her mouth sometimes. The other day, she dropped on me that when she was 15, she was made to burn Scientology documents, some shredded, some not shredded, for 12, 13 hours without stopping, box after box into the incinerator. No food, no water. Mostly, why are you having a 15-year-old shred Scientology documents?
Wow. Wow. BJ Critters says, happy 1-year anniversary, Natalie. Born Ancient says, do you think the bus driver's stats include how many SPs they evade with passengers in a week? Sincere respect and heartfelt thanks to you both. Every post has to have a stat, and I actually am dying to know what the stat of a Sea Org bus driver is because I've never heard anyone say that.
Maybe it's probably miles driven or number of people safely. They probably sit there with a clicker and count everybody getting on.
They
I
might
don't
have a
know.
percentage stat because if you have a stat that can only ever go so high, then you have
Yeah.
like maybe percentage of on-time schedule, percent of on-time drop-offs or something like that.
Yeah. So they probably hate the protesters because they have to go round and round sometimes. But
Yeah.
that's their own fault. Just drop people off.
Yeah.
Normalize it.
Let's see. Oh, game night again. Yes, guys, I'm still waiting for guidestar.org to deliver its December data dump to YouTube so that YouTube will recognize the SPTV Foundation as being a foundation that's registered with GuideStar. We are registered with GuideStar, but the monthly data dump has to occur. And yeah, that's all I'm waiting for. Helena Flock of Swan Boats says, thanks to the two Scientologists I met at the festival in the late 90s when I was 13 for creeping me out and keeping Scientology on the back of my brain all of these years. It's been so fun and inspirational following along.
Nice.
Very nice. Marcy Pokes gifted 5 Life After Occult channel memberships. Amazing.
Thank you, Marcy.
Road says, liking working less. You two are starting to be Norwegian.
But it's funny when you think about when I say working less, I mean keeping it to 40 to 50 hours a week. But I'm going to move forward, like ultimately, just keep growing things. I mean, because I'm getting older too. Like I've got like 10 years on you. I'm tired. I want to work less in the coming years. I feel like that's what everybody wants. That's the goal. I don't think I'll ever slow down. I'm always going to be doing something because I like to do things.
Abraham Orich says, Natalie, I emailed you a bunch of adult coloring images.
Ooh,
scandalous.
Nice.
Clearwater George says, home safe, heading to downtown Dunedin. I'll meet
George.
I'll call you as soon as I'm off, Georgie. And Farrell Cheryl says, Lana has amazing stories.
Yeah, she doesn't even realize. She just starts talking, and for her, so much of it was, oh, it's just this thing that happened, that sometimes she doesn't even realize what she knows. Like, my sister saw the document from a psychiatrist's office that showed the psych meds that L. Ron Hubbard was on. She found it in a trailer when she was going through the archives looking for something else. She knew from the age of 15, and she never said anything about it, that L. Ron Hubbard was on psych drugs.
Wow.
Yeah. It's nuts.
That is incredible. Well, I'll tell you what, we've been going for 90 minutes. Does this feel like a good natural place to wrap this one up?
It does. Once again, I thought maybe we're like 45 minutes in.
Let me show everyone who's watching on my channel one more time. You can find Natalie's channel at Scientology, Life After a Cult. Well, this has been a blast, Natalie. Let's do one of our this was its own special kind of video, but I think the last one that we did was kind of just a catch up on, like, you already do a daily recap video, but we did sort of like a monthly recap with each other.
I love that, because that's when we kind of get into the nitty gritty and some of the things too. Like, you see it one way, I see it one way. And I loved it when we did that. I'm totally here for it.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If